How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a little bit of a haul video. I've been picking up a lot of DVDs lately, from some from oldies.com and some from my good friends at Sinister Cinema. Okay, so let me start out with oldies.com. And this order is all about nostalgia, going all the way back to the 1950s. And so this is a season 2 of a TV series that probably none of you ever heard of, called Mr. Peepers. I think it ran from 1952 to 1956. Can't remember for sure. I can read it on the back, but I won't. Anyway, starring a comedian and an actor named Wally Cox. Very interesting guy. And this was broadcast live, and this includes the original commercials and all kinds of things. I sort of remember seeing this back when I was a kid. I certainly remember hearing about it, but this is a real treat to watch these old kinescopes put on a film. Anyway, so Wally Cox, Mr. Peepers. All right. Next up is going back into the 60s. This is the Woodstock Diary, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. These are 3 hours worth of material here. Each day they have interviews, musical performances that were not in the film, and by people like Joe Cocker and Richie Havens. Oh my God, that phone is loud. Tim Hardin, Joan Baez, Arlo Guthrie, Janis Joplin, Jefferson Airplane, Jimi Hendrix. Basically, almost everybody who was in it, plus a couple of the groups that I didn't even know were there, like Quill and let's see, the Incredible String Band, Burt Summers. I never heard of some of these people. So very, very fascinating stuff. If you like to remember the Woodstock phenomenon, if you like the music, if you remember that time, you will get into this. And this is a little compilation DVD called Beat Mania, the Ultimate Beatnik Collection, okay, with 2 films on there. One is called The Beatniks, starring Peter Breck. These were late 50s. And The Bloody Brood, starring Peter Falk in his first film. That may have been about 1960 or 61. Both of which I already have, but I wanted to get this because it also has extra features, and featuring a guy named Johnny Legend. If you ever heard of this guy, he's about my age, probably a little bit older, and he's an ex-wrestler, singer, and absolute expert on obscure 50s and 60s culture. So this is a lot of fun. All right. Next up is for somebody who remembers the cigarette commercials from the 1950s and 60s. This has got a couple of hours worth, just for memory's sake. Maybe not good memories for some people, but I remember all these, and I don't smoke. So this is an interesting little compilation called An Evening in the Zone. And we're talking about Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone. 3 teleplays by Twilight Zone creator Rod Serling back in the 1950s. And one of them is directed by John Frankenheimer, and it stars William Shatner and Rod Steiger. It's called A Town Has Turned to Dust. Okay? Plus it has interviews with Rod Serling. The 2 other teleplays, one is called The Arena, written by Rod Serling, starring Wendell Corey, Chester Morris, and the other one is Nightmare at Ground Zero, starring Pat Hingle, from 1953, I think it says. Wow, very long, live TV. Okay, next up is a little documentary that I never heard of called Flesh and Blood, the Hammer Heritage of Horror. Yeah, I'll try saying that fast. The Hammer Heritage of Horror, narrated by Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. Okay? So that would be a lot of fun. Next up is this silly movie that I may have heard of one time or another. It's a bogus monster movie featuring a lot of old classic names that you might remember. The Naked Monster. Okay? Starring Kenneth Tobey, John Agar, Forrest J. Ackerman is in it, Gloria Talbot, Robert Clark, Ann Robinson, Paul Marco, Linnea Quigley, and Briggs Stevens, right? Anyway, that was a lot of fun. And This is a must have been a TV movie or something, and I never heard of until now. It's called Love Spell, starring Richard Burton and Kate Mulgrew, right? And another actor named Nicholas Clay, whom I never heard of before. This is an adaptation of the legendary story of Tristan and Isolde, which I've heard about, but I've never read any of those stories or seen any adaptation. But this is a interesting. Also has Geraldine Fitzgerald. Um, Quite good. Very interesting. 1981, so it's a very young Kate Mulgrew. Absolutely gorgeous, and Richard Burton is terrific. Wow. And finally, going back to more nostalgia, this is a compilation of skits by Jonathan Winters. Remember this guy from back in the day? He was a pretty good comedian, and features a lot of famous guest stars. We have people like Mickey Rooney. We have Art Carney. We have who's that? Who's that lady? Dinah Shore. Trying to put a name to that face. Dinah Shore. Anyway, Jonathan Winters. And finally, I picked up these. Talk about more nostalgia. These are the baby boom years for different years, starting in 1950. There were some before that, from 1945 to 1949, which I didn't get. I just decided to start with 1950. And they have film clips, interviews, commercials, movie previews. They have a lot of newsreels and different things all about the culture of that particular year. So I had the one for 1950, 1951, the year I was born, 52, you know where this is going, right? 53. Well, I think I got these out of, oh well, I got them out of sequence here. 54, 56, anyway. I had these all the way up to the year 1967, and the only one that was not available is the year 1963 for some reason. So anyway, the baby boom years, right? So as a boomer, I feel like I should have these. Okay, now getting to my friends from Sinister Cinema, I decided to pick up a lot of things that they have available featuring a guy named Todd Slaughter, whom I heard about this guy before because Sinister Cinema has been promoting his films for a long time, but I finally picked up a Blu-ray from Kino Lorber. What was Crimes at the Face of the Window? Todd Slaughter. I wanted to finally see this guy. Didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be something really campy and funny, but the guy was great. It was a great movie. It has a strong, very strange personality, and so now I'm trying to find as much about Todd Slaughter as I can find. So here is Never Too Late to Mend. These are all English films, of course. Crimes at the Dark House. The Ticket to Leave Man. Where's the Ticket of Leave? Ticket of Leave Man. Horror Maniacs. With a second feature, a version of The Monkey's Paw, another English film. Then we have Murder in the Red Barn. And King of the Underworld. Okay, that is Mr. Slaughter right there. Good shot of him. And a couple more here. Okay. The Demon Barber of Fleet Street was probably the most famous title of anything they ever did. This is The Crimes of Stephen Hawke. So anyway, that's my Todd Slaughter collection so far. Now I've got 4 other titles from Sinister Cinema. One is a film that Christopher Lee made in 1957, I believe, and it's called Alias John Preston, another English film. I wanted to get this because I like Christopher Lee, trying to get as much of his work as I could find. This is a very interesting film, certainly not a horror film, and it's supposed to be a psychological thriller without that many thrills because the story is very weak. But even though it's only 66 minutes long, it's worth seeing because Christopher Lee is terrific. He doesn't have much to work with, but he makes the most of it. And what's fascinating, one of the things that's fascinating is he's speaking with an American accent, even though he's playing, I guess he's playing an English character surrounded by English players in England, but for some reason he's speaking in an American accent. I have no idea why that is, but maybe somebody can tell me. Okay. Next up is they put out this nice 2-disc edition of The Man Who Laughs, silent classic, okay, with Conrad Veidt. And this has 2 versions of the film. One is in black and white, and the other is tinted. I think it has either a blue tint or something like that. But I thought that was they remastered this, so I'm thinking it's probably going to be a really good image. I don't know, but I've never seen this before. And I got 2 films with Bela Lugosi. One is a film that he made in the 1930s called Phantom Ship, originally called The Mystery of the Marie Celeste. No, The Mary Celeste. Mystery of the Mary Celeste. But in America it was called The Phantom Ship. And it's not bad. It's not great, but it's a sort of an out-of-character role for Bela Lugosi. Not a horror film at all. Okay, so I wanted to, just for nostalgia's sake and to learn more about Lugosi. And I also decided to pick up his English film from the 1951 called Mother Riley Meets the Vampire, also known as My Son the Vampire, starring Arthur Lucan, who plays this Irish washerwoman named Mother Riley. And Bela Lugosi is playing somebody who's sort of a vampire, not really. This is not a terrific film, but again, Lugosi does great with the material he is given. And he made this in England during the time when he was doing a long tour of Dracula on the stage, going all around the country. So he did this to pick up a little bit of money. And it's an interesting film to watch. So anyway, I've seen this before. It's been a long time. Anyway, that's my haul. No, I have 2 more things here. I got these 2 titles from an online company called Mod Cinema, which basically just takes films off of television, right? These are mostly made-for-television films that are not available in any other source, and they record them from TV. Sometimes the images are great, sometimes they're not so great. In these cases, they were actually very good. This is a classic TV show, Strangers, the story of a mother and daughter in the 1980s, starring Bette Davis and Gena Rowlands, who worked beautifully together. And you will believe that these 2 people are mother and daughter, and that they have this big strain between them. And the 2 actresses became very good friends after they made this. All right. And finally, from 1971, this is a horror film that I remember, a movie of the week. It's called, what is it called? Black Noon, starring Roy Finnis and his wife Lynn Loring, Ray Milland, Yvette Mimieux, Gloria Graham. And I remember this just loving it. And the image on this is absolutely gorgeous. I was quite surprised. And just try not to be entranced by Yvette Mimieux. It's all about witchcraft. It's not really a mysterious film because you sort of know what's happening at the beginning. You're watching this preacher and his wife who are stranded in this strange town out west, not knowing what's happening to them until it's too late. It's very strange. So, good movie. Anyway, that's my haul. So thank you for watching. Comments are welcome. Let me know if you've seen any of these and how you feel about Todd Slaughter. I'd like to hear.